Hey, what's up guys, this is Forverlon Yu-Gi-Oh! And today I have yet again another King of Games deck. So I got to King of Games quite late actually, on the 29th of June, so 2 days left before the season reset. The reason I wait for that long is because I wanted the new ban list to take effect before I start to climb, so I waited until I think the ban list was enabled on 26, I believe. So yeah, the deck that I'm using this month is Noble Knights Balance. So this balance version, as you already know, it was unlike the previous one because the balance, the skill itself is already being tweaked. The balance skill right now, you need to play at least 6 monsters, 6 spell and 6 traps in order for it to activate. So that means we cannot play the old Noble Knight balance with just 1 trap cards or something like that. But it's totally fine because actually this version, in my opinion, is a lot better than the old one. I mean, give and take, because the old one was actually kind of better against Sylvan, but since Sylvan is not exist anymore, so this deck is good, especially because for hire is like 5 out of 7 decks in the rank right now. So yeah, let's just get on to the deck, I guess. First, the monster lineup. I think it's really self-explanatory. You should probably already know what they do and whatnot. So we only play triple Madrot and triple Dristan without any other Noble Knights, because these 2 Noble Knights are the one that we want. So someone did ask whether I did tested Bedwyr. Bedwyr, if you guys didn't know, is the blue guy. Bedwyr, it's this boy. So Bedwyr is good, but you need another Noble Knights. You need Dristan on the field for it to be good. So in a balanced version, you don't really want to play Bedwyr because in balance skill, if you guys didn't know, on the first starting hand you draw 4 cards, right? So out of 4 cards, we are guaranteed to draw at least 1 monster, 1 spell and 1 trap. The 4th card is actually randomized, so it could be any of them. So in a balanced deck where you only potentially draw 1 monster, you don't really want to draw into Bedwyr, which is kind of bad by itself. So you want only either Dristan or Madrot. But yeah, the monster I think is pretty self-explanatory. The next one is the triple glory of the Noble Knights. Again, the best cards of the deck. You should definitely play 3. No reason not to play 3. The toolbox and also quick play, so that means you can resolve Dristan's effect during your opponent's turn. Too bad though, Dristan's effect is like once per turn. Can you imagine how broken he is if he is not once per turn? Alright, so the next one is double Aphrodite, 1 Galatine and double Destiny. Some people do argue that double Galatine is better, so some people play 1 Aphrodite, double Galatine and double Destiny. But honestly, from my experience in climbing the rank, Aphrodite is more important than Galatine. The reason is because this deck really lose quite hard against Amazonas and also a for hire that play like a proper back row, like a Wall of D or something like that. So against for hire, Galatine doesn't really matter much because their monster generally is quite small anyway. The only forays that you're scared of in terms of like attack power is only Dinah, which is really easily poppable by your Dristan anyway. So generally against Fury, you are more afraid of their back row. So if you have Aphrodite, you can kind of force the econ take place so that they use it on your turn instead of their turn, which is a lot more devastating. So I feels like double Aphrodite is a lot more viable than double Galatine, because for example, even against Amazonas, which this deck does have quite a bit of a problem with, you can just equip your Aphrodite into your Amazonas, you know, like the usual old shenanigans. If you have another, like a Glory or another Noble Arms, just using their Amazonas monsters to pop their own back row, that's a really good trait, I think. Aside from that, Mask Hero matchups also really good, because with Mass Hero generally their first turn is summon Drill Dart or Vion usually, and set 2 back row or 3 back row. If you open a Aphrodite plus a mid rod, you are able to pop 2 set back rows and also 1 face up monsters. But of course, against Mass Hero, Destiny is the most important one, because you do want to protect your monster from dying by Anki's attack. So I feels like double Destiny is a must, at least 1 Galatine also, because you do need the attack boost sometimes. I did test it, 1 ARF and 2 Galatine. By the end of the day, I switched back to double Aphrodite because I find the Amazonas matchup becomes a lot easier with double Aphrodite. So the next one is the trap lineup. I have double Paleozoic Canadia, 1 Typhoon, and triple Wild Tornado. The most important trap out of this 6 is 100% Wild Tornado. The Canadia, I feels like Canadia, in my opinion, is the best protective trap cards right now in the game. This card is just so good against most meta deck. If you go first and you have Canadia set and they go second, you have 100% chance of locking that for hire player from playing pretty much, because if you use Wild Tornado to destroy their raccoon, for example, not raccoon, sorry, whatever monster, beats for example, if they have mayhem, they can just resume the play. But with Canadia, they cannot do anything. Aside from for hire, this card is also really good against Mass Heroes and also Spellbook, but only if you go first, obviously. If you go second, you probably lose because Spellbook of Fate is just that unfair. I mean, nothing much can be done against Spellbook anyway, but Canadia in general is really versatile, so that's why I really recommend it. The next one is the 1 Typhoon. Honestly, this kind of a wild card. I play Typhoon just because I don't have the 3rd Canadia. But sometimes Typhoon does come in handy because against Amazonas matchup, you do really want your Typhoon and your Wild Tornado for the onslaught. So it has its pros and cons. Sometimes I wish this is a Canadia, sometimes I'm glad it's a Typhoon, so I think I'm okay. I mean, I don't have the 3rd Canadia anyway, so yeah, if you don't have Canadia, just put in Typhoon. If you don't have Typhoon, just put in Canadia, I guess. So next, let's talk about matchups. Against for hire, as you guys already know, it's usually not that hard. I feels like I win quite a lot more than I lose against for hire. But then again, a lot of these for hire players also seems kind of inexperienced, I guess, playing against Noble Knights. Is that sometimes I do see that they can win, but sometimes they just made like misplays, I guess. I mean, maybe in their eyes it's not a misplay because they didn't know that they can do that, but you know, if you are a Noble Knights player, you already think of all the different things that might screw you over. So when you see that it might happen but they didn't do it, that's an instant misplay, which is good for us. Right? The things with for hire players is that they always seems to fixate it at the monster that was equipped by Destiny, but they always seems to forget that Dyna can banish. I mean, one very obvious play is that you summon Donpa and then special summon a Dyna, right? And then activate both effects. Donpa will go first, so it will destroy Destiny, for example, and Dyna will banish the Destiny. So that means the Destiny won't come back from the graveyard because it will be already banished. But most player doesn't do that, even if they can. Most player just target the Drisden that was equipped by Destiny. So that's one play that you should do if you are a for hire player and you're playing against Noble Knight. Against Spellbook, like I said, it's a 50-50 chance. If you go first, you're probably good to go. If you go second, you probably lose. Like really high chance, maybe 80-90% of the time you probably lose if you're going second. What else? Against Amazonas, you have to be really patient and conservative. If you think about it, in the Amazonas deck, you need to destroy 2 onslaught, and also you need to destroy 1 queen that was special summoned by Princess, right? And then you have to also consider that they might have 1 or 2 willpower let's just say 1, because most deck does play only 1. So that's 4 cards that you need to destroy. And you also have to consider that sometimes there are situations that Queen's already in the graveyard and then they have their second onslaught or something like that. So that means you have to destroy a Queen again if you destroy that second onslaught, right? Because the onslaught will special summon a Queen, for example. So that's like 5 cards if you consider like the worst scenario. So 5 cards that you need to get rid of in an Amazonas matchup is not easy. So don't play like an animal. There's a 100% downfall. Against Amazonas, you have to be really level-headed and think about every possible scenarios. Like for example, what kind of back row do they play? General back row that Amazonas play are Forbidden Chalice and also the Wolf D. So these 2 that you probably want to consider. Play your cards based on this kind of assumption, but obviously don't overthink. Just check the delays. Aside from those 3, what else? Mask Heroes. Alright, Mask Heroes generally is not hard, especially if you go second and you have Madral and Aphrodite. But the main problem with Mask Hero though is that they do play multiple Cyclones sometimes, and Cyclone can really Cosmic Cyclone can really screw us over. Yeah, but aside from that, Mask Hero matchup is generally not that hard. So Silent Magician Gravekeepers, if you guys didn't know, so it's basically a Silent Magician plus Gravekeeper's Recruiter and playing Transcendent Crystal Skill as a Jesse Anderson, and then they also usually play like a triple Crystal Raigeki as a trap. So their general play is they just summon Recruiter and then special summon the Silent Magician from their hand. So what do you want to do is that if you don't have like a Canadia, just if you have like the other trap card instead of Canadia, you can just blow up the first monster that they summon, which is usually Recruiter. If the Recruiter is dead, they don't have any follow-up play normally, because they really depends on that one normal summon. But if you do have Canadia, you can consider to let their play go through, because if they not special summon the Silent Magician, you can just flip Canadia and switch the Silent Magician to face down, and then on your turn, if you have Glory or something like that, or another trap which you can activate on their turn, you can just set it and then destroy the Silent Magician, and then the Silent Magician will special summon the big one, right, the level 8. If you have Glory, you can just activate it from your hand and destroy it with Dresden. So usually a Silent Magician is like not that big of a deal. I feels like it's quite easy, because our destruction's effect again is not really depending on the spell anyway. The only problem with Silent Magician that I can think of is that if you don't have like multiple spells for your equip, which sometimes can happen. I think I lost like once or twice against this deck, and I faced quite a lot. So that means this deck is just not that powerful in general. I mean, Noble Knights really weak to disruptive cards, right? Paleozoics or Flute Gate or something like that. And Silent Magician doesn't really play any disruptive cards except Crystal Raigeki. So if you're going first, it's usually okay, because usually would have a Destiny anyway. If you're going second, that means if they have a Crystal Raigeki, you think you might want to see whether you have Glory or not. If you don't have Glory, then you'll be probably in a difficult situations. But overall, the deck itself is not really that consistent in my opinion, so it's kind of weak, I think. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Like if you have Canadia, you can consider to let the play go through, but if you don't have, just blow the first monster that came to the field. Right, so on to the marathon from Legend 3 to King of Games. This is the first out of 5 win streak that it is required for you to reach King of Games from Legend 3. If you notice, we did catch an L earlier. It was my promotion match, I think. It was against Amazons, which this deck sometimes does have problem against. So the moment we see Seto Kaiba over here, we should probably assume it's like a furry or a hazy. So maybe 80% furry 20% hazy. Furry deck is just that common. It's like 5 deck out of 8, something like that. So he normal summoned Legion over here, which made me confused. Like, okay, what deck is playing? Turns out he normal summoned another Tricky, so I kind of figure out what deck he's playing. It's probably something like a Blizzard Princess plus Silent Magician kind of deck. So I only have Madrot, so I have to normal summon the Madrot. If I have Drisden, I will go with the Drisden instead. But he flipped the Paleozoic Canadia, which is an absolute bane to this deck, to Noble Knights. Noble Knight is really weak to Canadia. So at this point I was considering it's a GG, but turns out he normal summoned Lila and destroy our Wild Tornado, which save us from the total destruction. Like, if he just went with the usual, not usual, with the Gemini Elf, because we doesn't know he have it in his hand, we would just scoop, because the next draw we see is a second Aphrodite, which is really bad. So it was really lucky. But let this be like a lesson. Like, if you play against Noble Knights and they have like a set cards, and after you do your summon or something like that and they didn't activate it, you should probably assume it's not something that's dangerous, you know, because most of the trap cards that Noble Knights play is something like a Wild Tornado, Typhoon. Sometimes they do play Canadia as well, but some decks, most deck I think play like triple Typhoon and triple Tornado instead of Canadia. So yeah, I mean, you usually don't have to go through the hassle to pop the back row, because worst comes to worst is a Wild Tornado. So yeah, let there be a lesson. Alright, so again against Seto Kaiba, assume 80% Furry, 20% Hazy. Our opening hand right here is actually really decent, because we can go into any Noble Arms that we want. So he decided to set monster and pass. At this moment I was considering, should I go with the Aphrodite play or not, because we can glory into Aphrodite. But I decided to go into the usual Destiny play instead of popping the back row, the set monster with Aphrodite, because I figure it's probably a Furry. I mean, some Furry player do this. They just set monster on their first turn and just pass. So I figure if it's a Furry, then it's nothing. But if it's not Seto Kaiba, I would try to Aphrodite the monster, because it might be some shenanigans. So here we have the Wild Tornado and Canadia setup, which is really ideal against Furry. Turns out it is a Furry, it's just a Donpa. So this is really advantageous for us. He normal summoned a Donpa, which I respond with Canadia, and you notice here he have a delay. So that means he have a quick spell card. It could be either Econ, it could be Mayhem. Some Furry also play Chalice. So these are the three quick play spell that I have in mind. But I figure it's probably not a Mayhem, because if it is a Mayhem, he will already use it in his turn instead of passing. So I figured it's either Chalice or Econ, which of both of them is not really that scary, because our position is just this strong. Turns out it is just a I believe it's an Econ. Yeah, it is an Econ. Yeah. So this is really good because he used the Econ defensively. The main weakness of a Noble Knight deck actually is an Econ take play. Like, an offensive Econ take play usually can wipe this deck out, or you can just straight up getting OTK, because this deck do play like a really little monster count. But thankfully we force him to play the Econ defensively, so that's good. He normal summon Recon, and I let him to special summon another monster, because I figured the Recon will destroy the Tornado anyway, so I can just destroy whatever that monster that was special summoned. So turns out it's just Seal. The only problem though, if it was a Whiz, if it's a Whiz, the Whiz can negate the Wild Tornado, but it doesn't really matter because we have Glory in our hand anyway, so that's a GG no matter what. There's a really good clean match, I think. I mean, given our opening hand was really good. Alright, so this is the third match. Again, another Seto Kaiba player. So our hand's also really decent. We have a Madrot and Aphrodite. That means we can pop at least 2 back row and also 1 face-up monster. So turns out he decided to pass, which is something that a furry, also hazy player likes to do. So at this point I was considering, should I glory into Destiny, because Destiny really is really good against furry and also against hazy actually. But I forgot what I did. I think I did went to the Destiny here. I mean, it's not really a bad play. I think going into Destiny, it's more of a safer play, but it is kind of a waste because, you know, Glory is really versatile. You can activate it on your opponent's turn, which is normally your preference. But I figured the Destiny is probably really important. I mean, I use the Destiny for the Tristan anyway, so I figure I might need the Tristan on his turn, regardless whether it's furry or hazy. So he ditched the Manticore, so that means we know this is a hazy. So it makes our job a little bit easier because furry is more consistent, hazy is not. So that means we can just pop the initial monster and see whether he have like a Berlineth or a Dabbing Dyna or not. But since he already used Tricky, usually they don't have Dyna, so that's good. Usually against hazy, obviously you want to pop the initial monster that they that they special summoned, because the hazy monster is not targetable. So the only monster that you can target is the initial monster that they summon. So that's the one that you want to destroy. So he just GG right there because it is GG. Right, so that was also pretty clean duel, I think. So generally you do want to have at least a Drisden on your field. Not having a Drisden feels really unsafe. Right, so this is the 4th duel against Joey Wheeler. In earlier it says Jonoichi Katsuya. Because I use like a mixed assets of like a Japanese data and also some are English, so yeah. That's why you see the cards like in Japanese, but on the left you see the cards in English. So yeah. Right, so I draw a Madrot, but generally if you have an option between Drisden and Madrot, my preference would be to lead with Drisden, unless you really need to have an extra monster on the field. Like in this kind of situation, it's better to just normal summon Drisden and let him handle the stuff. And if something happened to the Drisden, you will have a Madrot as a backup. So he played a Gyoku over here. I was considering, should I Wild Tornado the Gyoku or not, because I was afraid of him having a second Gyoku. But I figured the chance of him having a second Gyoku is probably quite low, so I did not use my Wild Tornado over here. But turns out it's an alien player, so didn't see that coming. He set a back row, which is kinda the usual alien player plays. They usually set a lot of back rows. So over here I decided to Wild Tornado the Gyoku because I need to destroy the Overlord using Drisden. And he decided to set a card from his hand, which is interesting. So over here from the Glory I decided to use Aphrodite instead of Destiny. If I grab Aphrodite from my deck, I still have an Aphrodite in my hand as a backup play, because against Alien I think Aphrodite is like really important cards because they like to set a lot of cards. So that's just my logic, going with the second Aphrodite instead of a Destiny. So it turns out the back row is just a Brainwashing Beam, something that I did not see coming. I thought it's probably like a Wall of D, to be honest. So he he special summoned the Overlord and sent another back row, which is really annoying. Also, we can't really attack recklessly into an alien player with a back row, because as we know, alien player do play Wall of Disruption, at least 2 or 3 usually. So I decided to pop a another back row. I was deciding whether to pop the left or the right, but I figured the right seems better because he just said it. So since we don't have any other options, we can't really use our second Aphrodite because there can be only one Aphrodite that you control. So that means I have to use the Destiny over here. But it's still alright, it still works. Again, I did not attack because there were no delay, so I was afraid that set back row might be like a Wall of D, because if there is no delay, you should assume the worst, you know. You should assume it's probably like a Wall of D or something, especially because it's alien, you know. But if there's a delay, I was thinking it's probably like a powerful rebirth, but there wasn't, so I was thinking being patient is probably better. And coincidentally, the alien counter ran out, so yeah, I just popped the another Aphrodite, and turns out it's just another brainwashing beam, and it's GG over here. So yeah, playing patiently, I think, pays off. Like obviously in that second turn, or was it on the third or fourth turn, we do have a chance to destroy the Driston that was being taken, but I decided not to. I think it's also the better play. Like against alien, usually you want to play a little bit more passive if you can control their board. But if you can't, then it's better to. But if you cannot, then it's better to just try to OTK them, I guess. Right. So that was the fourth. So yeah, this is the last match. So this is the promotion match. Again, another Seto Kaiba. That's like 4 Seto Kaiba out of 5. That's crazy. So we lead with the Madrot. And we do have a Typhoon and also a Tornado, which is alright. Actually, this setup is good because even if they manage to destroy the Driston, the Destiny will come back to Madrot. So essentially, they will need 2, 3, 4 destructions in order to get rid of our entire board. So he decided to normal summon Donpa, and we just directly pop the Donpa. The only problem though, if he does have like a Mayhem of the 4 higher for a follow-up play, if he does, then that's kinda sucks. Because Donpa plus Dyna is really devastating for the Noble Knights. I kind of forgot though whether he have a Mayhem or not, but we did saw a delay when we activate the. Okay, so he does have a Mayhem, alright. So he's not special summoned the Donpa, so at this point I was probably kind of afraid because again, Donpa plus Dyna is really scary for us, but turns out he just decided to set. So at this point I was afraid that the 2 back row one of them might be like a Wall of D, because some for higher player does play a Wall of D, so that's why I decided to switch my Madrot into defense and attack with the Driston, because honestly I don't really care about the Driston that much. So I was like, if the Driston dies, then like whatever. But I would like to keep my Madrot longer on the field, so that's why. But turns out it's an econ, so one of them is still a mystery. So he normal summoned another Donpa, which is kind of interesting. I figured why won't he just special summon? Can he actually do that? Actually, I'm not too sure. Oh, he probably can't. Yeah, you probably can't summon nor special summon the same name. Maybe, I'm not sure. I need to check again. All right, so this is kind of lucky because we draw the Aphrodite. So there were a delay. We saw it. So it might be a mayhem again. So it is a mayhem. Alright, so it kind of sucks that he get the special summon the mayhem. So his Donpa effect will pop. Probably destroy the Dristan. So that's a better play from him. Right. So at this point, I decide to attack because at one point I thought that the middle card was having a delay when I was activating something. So I was like so sure that the middle card was not a Wolf D, but surprise, surprise, it is a Wolf D. The worst case scenario. Honestly, I kind of forgot what made me think like that. But this is where the crucial part is. You know, for hire is a combo based deck, so that means they need at least 2 cards in order to go off. And he just GG right there, because as I said, you need at least 2 cards for a 4 higher deck to be able to play, and top deck situation is not really a situation you want in a combo based deck. And just like that, we reach the king of games using the balanced Noble Knights. So that's it from me. I hope it's been helpful, and see you guys next time. Bye.